One of the most difficult times in my life was the loss of my dad. My father passed away when I was 16. I can still remember the school office calling the chemistry classroom, telling me that I was dismissed early for the day. I found out once I got home that my father had passed away unexpectedly. The sense of grief and fear was crippling. I asked myself, how could God do this to me, to our family? How could God take away this man we all love so much? Why, God, why? It was my mom who helped me through this time in my life. I was struggling with whether I was going to run away from God, who took my dad, or run to God to comfort me for the loss of my father. My mom ran to God. Her grief was palpable, but she wasn't going to compound that with anger. She chose to run to God for comfort. She reminded all her children, and that's 7 of us, that the cycle of life would call us home to the divine glory of God someday. No matter when that happened, God would always be there to comfort and love those who were left behind. From then on, by my mom's example, my prayer life became a regular conversation with God. As I prayed that year after Dad passed away, I began to realize that death was not the end of his life, but the beginning of his time with the divine God. Wasn't that what comforts all of us as we struggle through this life? The promise Jesus made that there is life after death? That we would know again the love of the family members we lost? I may not know what God's plan was for taking my dad when I was so young, but I do know that the beauty of my mom's faith saved me. And when I chose to run to God, I ran to not only the Heavenly Father, but to my earthly father as well, who both love me unconditionally. Now, all these years later, I look back and realize that God gave me His grace that day to grow into a strong, faithful woman who would become His witness for faith formation here at St. Isidore's. When the children asked me, "How did you survive your dad passing away when you were a teenager, Mrs. DeRay?" I tell them that God's Spirit is within all of us, and if we truly turn to God, we will always feel the beauty of His love.